Chapter 2 continued. Yet during these sorrowful years, a merciful providence was watching over him, a fact which left a deep impression on him in later years. Several times he almost lost his life. Once he was dangerously stabbed in the chest in a quarrel with another herdsboy. On another occasion, he was nearly drowned after falling into a deep pool, and only rescued with difficulty. On yet another occasion, a horse ran away with him, galloping through a low, narrow passage, so that he might well have been crushed to death. But perhaps his most remarkable deliverance was when he fell from a high tree with an open knife in his hand, remaining unconscious till helped by a passer-by. Who can fail to see God's watchful care in all this? In later years, there was a story abroad that Christmas Evans had been a boxer, but in fact, he never fought a battle in his life. Yet he grew up without God and without hope in the world, associated only with things low and brutal. When about 17 years of age, he left his uncle. He is described at this time as being specially uncouth and awkward, a large-boned, muscular, much brooding, and somewhat passionate young man. Not exactly a flattering description. Still working as a farmer's boy, he moved to Llancrethwr, then Penny Raltfawr, then Gwenalt, then Castle Hwyl. His days were spent in dire poverty, without friend and without home. But the time had come when God would begin his work in Christmas Evans's heart. Chapter 3. A New Life. God's sovereignty is most mysterious. He often uses the most unusual means to accomplish his purposes. So it was with the conversion of Christmas Evan. At Llanrhyd Owen stood a Presbyterian chapel. The minister, David Davis, a great unwieldy figure, clothed with loose-fitting garments and crowned with flaxen hair, his size was prodigious, was a man of considerable classical attainment, and was renowned as a Welsh bard. Yet his views of the person of the Lord Jesus were very faulty. A man of great kindness, his loose views of truth sprang from a desire to be easy rather than from a critical spirit. When an old man, he heard a sound sermon by the eminent minister Williams of Werne, and exclaimed, "If that sermon be true, it will be a dark look out for a great many of us." Yet here at Llanrhyd Owen, about the year 1783, a revival of religion broke out. Many young people appeared to be graciously affected and united with the church, Christmas Evans being one of them. Of these converts, Christmas Evans said, "What became of the major part of these young converts, I have never known, but I hope God's grace followed them as it did me, the meanest of them all." Sadly, we have no details of Christmas's spiritual experience at this time, though he tells us that even from his 9th year, the fear of death and of the day of judgment greatly agitated me, so much that after a certain fashion I offered many a prayer. These moods, however, did not last long, but came now and then and vanished. Concerning the change at this time, his own judgment in later days was not too favourable. Yet in his old age, he said, the fear of dying in an ungodly state especially affected me. even from childhood. And this apprehension clung to me till I was induced to rest upon Christ, and this was accompanied by some little knowledge of the Redeemer. And now, in my 70th year, I cannot deny that this concern was the dawn of the day of grace on my spirit, although mingled with much darkness and ignorance. Even from his spiritual infancy, he was blessed with a spirit of prayer. The spirit of energetic supplication was given to me early. A sense of danger prompts the soul to seek deliverance. Earnestness in prayer grew with me, though I frequently feared it would become extinct. Still, it was not entirely extinguished, even in those days of darkness, when I but barely perceived that the merits of Christ were the only plea, without reference to anything of our own. After I came to know and feel that the righteousness of Christ formed the only ground to be depended upon before God, I was able with every sense of unworthiness to approach him with a stronger expectation. The Christian must have a rock in the merits of the Redeemer to rest upon, and here he finds a place of refuge and a covert from the storm and the rain. According to the popular account, Christmas Evans very early had to suffer for Jesus' sake, having now been compelled to separate from all his wicked friends and acquaintances. He had to prove their bitterness against his master and against himself. He had just bought a copy of the Pilgrim's Progress, and as he journeyed home, paused from time to time to read a few sentences. Suddenly, 6 of his former companions waylaid him, beat him unmercifully, whilst one hit him in the eye with a stick, as a result of which the eye was lost. In later years, he was known as the one-eyed preacher of Wales. But even from his youth, he could say with Paul, I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Jesus, and all this simply because he was turned from sin to God. Strangely, Christmas Evans's brother, who spent his life almost as a tramp, looked remarkably like his brother, and he too had lost an eye. How, we do not know. Though his pastor's preaching was deficient in the truth, he showed the greatest interest in Christmas Evans. Persons blessed with grace are seldom content to remain ignorant, and Christmas was no exception. He thirsted for knowledge. A few of the young men bought Bibles and candles, and used to meet together in a barn at Peneraltvawr. Referring to himself and others at this time, he says, we had but little knowledge of the way of salvation, and less experience of it in our hearts. But many who were not able to read a word before now became so anxious to learn that they were soon able to read the Scriptures. I should suppose that up to this time not 1 out of 7 persons in these districts knew how to read. No wonder that later he said, the Bible is the book of books, a book breathed out of heaven. I am very thankful for books written by man, but it is God's book that sheds the light of life everlasting on all other books. In a month, he could read the Bible in Welsh, and then he borrowed books to learn a little English. It is only fair to say that another account does not connect the loss of his eye with suffering for Jesus' sake, but rather with a period of backsliding. A third account connects the two. In a backsliding state, he had gone to a fair, but coming away was assaulted because of his Christian profession.